Hey folks, Ryan here from Mista Gaming Rants and Reviews, and I've got a good old review today of a little game we are calling Land vs. Sea, published by Good Games Publishing and designed by Jon-Paul Jacques. All right, we got 2 to 4 players. Really? I think we've got 2 players taking on the roles of land and sea to try to score a whole bunch of points, tile laying style. Join me at the table. I'm going to show you what's inside the box and how to play Land versus Sea. All right, well, let's take a look at what's happening inside Land versus Sea. And I'm going to slide this box lid up open. Okay, and the first thing, of course, on top, sitting very so nicely snug along the edges here, is our rule book. And overall, this is a fairly decent rule book. It has got very little in the terms of the white space and the not used spaces, going over, pretty much everything. Your first game. So they do kind of set it up that there is kind of like a quote-unquote beginners style game or an introductory type game, and it kind of goes through exactly how it goes, set it up, playing the, there we go, they call it the basic game, which is all in thing. So going through, how to play a tile, using action tiles, scoring completed areas, waypoints, replenishing your tiles, lots of different things. So lots of things on how to, and describing in detail how to, play your tiles, what happens if you do a play again tile, what happens when you're doing a stealing tile, scoring your areas, which is a big piece of the game. You're going to want to pay attention to how you're going to score, and there are some some handy hints on how to play your first game or what you should be looking for in your first few games, which is actually really quite neat. You might think that this is a pretty straightforward tile laying game, but you know what, there is a little bit of depth going on, so some ideas on how you're going to score some of your points. Seeing how, what happens when certain sections and situations arise, explaining the special volcano and whirlpool tile in this area, and then that encompasses here the full basic game. And then right after this, they all go into some additional scoring opportunities, which is like, the mountain coral scoring module. Then they have the caravan and ship scoring module, and they also have the waypoints module, and they have them all nicely outlined in here. As you can see, it's not adding a lot of different complexity to the game, just different ways that you can score some points. And then back here is an area that I have no expertise in at all, but it does teach you how to play the game with 3 or 4 players. 3 players is a special cartographer's role that gets assigned to one of the players, and then 4 players, you're playing with teams. And so just different ways that some things can interact with those. And again, here we go. Then there's the 4-player rules more, and then there are some, more 3 and 4 player rules. And on the back here is a very handy little summary on how to play an example turn, and just kind of outlining some different scoring opportunities. Overall, very decent, very good rule book. It may seem a little thick, but hey, it's a pretty easy and light read. And then on top here, I've got a couple tiles here for the mountain and coral and caravan and ships scoring modules here that you can keep nearby, depending on which one you're playing with, or just to remind you if you're playing with them. We kind of keep those aside. And then, here's the rest of the box here. They make pretty good use of it, as you can see on the left-hand side here. Instead of filling it with some artwork or anything, or providing you with it more cardboard or anything like that, they give you the scoring track right here printed inside the box, which is really, really quite fun and really quite handy. And I really like that it progresses, 0 through 9 and then 10, because then really allows you, I love it when score tracks do this, so that I can easily count up by like my 10s, especially if I'm got 25 points and I go up to 5 and then I can go straight up or something like that. Really like the way that this is laid out. And then, of course, there is all of the tiles stacked vertically in the tiles. That's why there's a little bit of depth to the box. Here it's a little bit thicker than our standard 2-player size games. And that's because they're allowing you to store your big hex tiles here vertically inside this little well here. And they all fit very nicely with a little bit of room to spare for our score track, our big chunky wooden tokens here, which are really, really quite fancy. Whoops, one just dropped on the floor. So there is a go with the screen printed, nice, heavy, chunky wooden piece. There's a sea token. Here's a land token. And then, of course, then there's the cartographer token. Very nice. Very nicely done. And then, of course, there is a whole bunch of different style tiles. Of course, one that's always going to come out that I put up to the front here is the starting tile. This one's how it starts on the game. It's the only tile that's double-sided. It's the same on both sides of the tile here. And then the next one after that is another one that gets set aside here. That's the whirlpool and the volcano tile. Okay, that one gets set aside because there's some special rules around that. But then every other tile is a little bit different, with some nice comic, very, very nice artwork and very whimsical. Like here, there's like a monolith on the land here, and there's a little pirate ship. But on the other side, it's completely different on the other side of that tile, depicting various surface areas of land versus sea. And again, here's another pirate ship one, but on the other side here, there's like, oh, look at that, some sort of octopus is taking down that pirate ship. And then here's an example of a steel tile, and on the other side, oh, there's nothing on the other side, but there's some sort of sea creature attacking this thing. Like, the artwork is very whimsical. I love the artwork very, very, very much. All right, there we go. And most tiles are different. Sometimes there's the same depiction on some of them, but hey, you couldn't make. Well, I guess they could make them all 100% uniquely made, but hey, I'll take what I can get because they're all the front and the back are different on all of the tiles, which increases the variability in way the order comes out. Okay, so that's what's inside of the box here. I'm going to get everything else nicely set up for us to learn how to play. All right, well, I am all set up for a 2-player game. Because let's be honest, this is land versus sea. I'm pretty sure that this is strictly designed mainly to be played as a 2-player game. So here we are set up. Very minimal setup in order to do. You just got to locate your starting tile, which is the same on both the front and the back here. And you also locate your whirlpool and volcano tile, and you set it off to the side here. Then you take all of the rest of the tiles and you stack them in 2 even stacks. Shuffle them up, stack them in 2 even stacks, and then you do a little bit of a draft off of the tops of each of those stacks here. And so player number 1 here has drafted their 2 tiles. Player number 2 here has drafted their 2 tiles. And then you kind of randomly determine who is going to go first and who is going to play as what. Is one player is going to play as land and one player is going to play as sea. Now, the object of this game, obviously, is to score the most points, and how you score those particular points is, well, if I'm the land player, I want to make contiguous sections of land pieces, and as the sea player, I want to try to create contiguous pieces of sea areas. And as soon as an area gets completely enclosed, meaning I can't add on to that section any further, then that section is going to start scoring 1 point per tile that makes up that particular region. And that's it. And then there's a little bit of bonus scoring that kind of goes along the way there. So let's just kind of go run through a couple turns here and just to kind of show you exactly what's going on here and maybe some of the extra little things that kind of go on. Just like on the side of the box here, there says that there are some bonus points that can be scored for land, sea, and then there is the play again symbol, and then there is the steal symbol. So for example, as the land player, maybe he got to go first. Okay, they're going to take this particular tile, and it's double-sided. Now, the one player, the other player, the sea player, can see these other sides. These sides face up on the table, but they do not know what's on the backs of each of those tiles. That is hidden information to the other player. So let's just say, come along here, land is going to play this tile. Now, when you go to play a tile, you have to make sure that all sides are able to match up. Now, early on, this is actually quite not a problem. I can place this here to match up land and land, but I could not place this tile such that sea matches up with land. That is not a correct tile placement. So even let's say I can even go ahead and I can I can do this. That is 100% legal. It matches land and land. Coming along perfectly. Land player played this symbol. This is the steal symbol, which means automatically they get to take one of the 2 face-up tiles that are in the other player's hand, essentially limiting their turn to playing only one particular tile here. So let's just say they're going to come along. They're going to steal this tile. Perfect. Land player's turn is done. Now, if the land player had fewer than 2 tiles left, they would have to draw up to 2 tiles. Now, since they stole a tile here, they don't have to actually draw up. They have 2 tiles in their possession at the end of their turn. There's okay. Turn is going to pass now to the C player, which is, kind of lovely. They are limited in what they can do here. So let's see here. They're going to come along here. Now they actually have to start paying attention to how they're going to, because maybe they want to match up their C area. So maybe they could do this, because land is going to match with land and C is going to match with C. That is the legal tile placement. But they would not be able to do something like this to try to close off their water area, because this side does not match with C. So this would be a legal placement. They could come along and do this, which is okay. They could also maybe say they don't want to add on to land's area. They can come along to the other side here, because I see that they have 2 C portions, and they go C match with C, and that really kind of starts opening up their C lane, and it doesn't actually help out the land player at all. That seems like a really good idea for the C player to play it that way. Now, C player at the end of their turn, they have no tiles, so they're going to have to actually draft 2 tiles now. They're going to draft this one. And you know what? They're actually also going to draft this tile too. Play goes over to land. Land is looking at, my goodness gracious, what could they possibly do? Maybe they're going to come along here and they will play this tile, kind of like that. Okay, play ends. They draft a new tile. Goes over to C. Now C has got one of these tiles here, and this is the play again tile. So essentially, if they play this tile first with this side face up, not on this side. Ooh, there on the other side is a steal. That's actually kind of handy. But on this side, if they play this tile first, they'll actually get to play a second tile this particular turn. So let's see what they can manage to do with that. So they could come along here and maybe, okay, that seems okay. We'll do that. And then activate. They can play again. And then they see that they also have this tile here. Now, just for the purposes of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how some scoring is going to happen, because I'm going to come along here and I'm going to place this tile right here, which essentially closes off and finishes off this island here. So that means land is actually going to score some points here. Land is going to score 1, 2, 3, 4 points, because that island is made up with 4 tiles. So land is going to score 4 points. Now there's these X's here. These X's are the bonus points, and the bonus points get awarded to the person who last played the tile that completed this area, which is actually C in this case. C is the person that played the tile that closed off this area. So the C person is actually going to score those 2 bonus points. Okay, so now that land area can't get any bigger. Score the land player a lot of points, and guess what? The point difference isn't actually a whole lot, because, well, C managed to grab a couple bonus points from that land, so that meant that keeping the score nice and close. And now it's the C player's turn. They are all out of tiles. They get to draft another couple, and play is going to go on and on like this until all of the tiles make up this grand, archipelago of islands and river and sea and everything like that. Until all of those tiles get played, that is when the end of the game is going to trigger, and that's going to be whoever has the most points is going to win. Now, we did mention that there are some other scoring opportunities that you can play with after you've played a few games of this basic nature. There is what they refer to as the mountains and coral scoring opportunity, where you're going to want to match up these coral regions or these mountain regions. And when you add on to those regions, you're going to score the number of points equal to how long that chain of either coral or mountains is equal to. And this gives you a couple of examples of how that looks. So in this case, let's take a look at, does this person have any? Okay, here. So let's just say the land player, for some odd reason, played this coral, oh gosh, how does it work? Oh yeah, it can work like this. So this land person plays this tile here. I don't know why they would want to do that, but I can see now that this coral region there, it started off on this tile and it extended now into this tile. So C is actually going to score 2. Even though land played this tile, C is going to score 2 points for having that coral region 2 places long. Draft. And now let's just say here, what is it? Oh yeah, okay. And let's just say that the C player here decided they were going to play this tile here that has some mountain range on it. And there is some mountain range over here. So let's just say they played it like this. Now that mountain range extends 2 tiles. So now land would score themselves 2 points because that mountain range extended 2 tiles. If so they decided to take this tile and they placed it like this, well, now the mountain regions aren't matching up with that mountain range on this tile, so there would be no points awarded to land for a continuous mountain range. Okay, only if those sides of the tiles actually match up. And let's just say later on in the game, they come around, okay, now land here sees, oh, I got another tile. It has some mountain ranges on it. Hey, that mountain range over here is starting to extend a little bit. I can come along and I can place it along again here. And now that mountain range is now 1, 2, 3 tiles long. So now that mountain range will score 3 points as soon as this tile gets connected. So if you can keep connecting them in a line, the more and more points they're going to end up actually scoring every time that a new tile gets added onto the board. And that's the mountain coral scoring. They kind of just keep adding onto your score as the game progresses. Another thing that you can do on your turn is that there is the caravans and ships scoring module. And notice that some of these tiles, like I see here, there are some tiles already added here that have these ships. And we have some tiles in our possessions that actually have caravans on them. And these score a different couple of ways. Let's just say now it is the C player's turn. They're going to come along here and they are going to, they're going to try to start, enclosing this C region. So they place this tile right here. Automatically, by placing this tile into this spot, there's no coral matching, so there's going to be no coral bonus. Nothing's being enclosed, so I'm not going to score that. But this caravan did get placed next to a tile with a ship on it. And automatically, when you do that, you score 2 points in order to do that. And that's really how simple caravan and ship scoring is as long as you keep adding on to these areas. And so say this guy comes around now and he places their tile right here. I added again to this area and it is next to a caravan. It's actually also next to a ship, but since it's adjacent to at least one of these caravan or a ship, it is going to score 2 points. And now the other thing that happens is at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you would take a look at any areas that contain ships and caravans. So let's just say at the end of the game, this was an area that contained ships and caravans. You would take a look at that isolated little area here, and you would count up how many ships and caravans are there. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4. So this area is worth 4 points. Now, who gets those 4 points? Well, who has the majority? Is it ships or is it caravans? If it's a majority of ships, like in this case, C is going to score all 4 of those points. If it is the caravans that have the majority, then it will be land that scores all of those points. If it is a tie, however, then neither land nor sea will score any of the points. No one would score any points if there's a tie. All right, so that is the caravan and ships scoring module. And the last one that can come into play is what they call the waypoints scoring module, which is, hey, you come along here and you decide you're going to put down a tile. Let's just say, does this one match up anywhere here? Nope, not that one. That one doesn't do very good. You know what? Maybe this one comes along. And I put this tile down, and you know what? I am going to put since this was the C player, I'm going to put my C marker here. I'm going to put it into this region because since I played this tile, I can place it onto this tile. I'm going to place it into that C region. So now, whenever this particular C region gets enclosed, whoever encloses that area is going to score an additional bonus point. So it kind of gives you, if there's already lots of bonus points inside of that region, and you kind of put it in there, it kind of entices somebody to close off that particular region, or it might tip off somebody that you're going to be enclosing that particular region. So that is exactly how waypoints work. So you can place it on your tile. Now, whenever that region encloses, you get a bonus point. And then same thing with land. If land comes along here and puts this one right here, now land can come over here and say, okay, we're going to say once this area gets enclosed, finishes off, there's going to be an extra bonus point that's worth for that particular region. And yeah, so you can now mix and match. You can either play just the basic game. You can play with just the mountain and corals scoring module. You can play with just the caravan and ships module. You can play like we do, and you play both of those modules together along with the waypoints scoring module. And yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that you can actually play this game, and lots of different ways that you can score your points. And that is going to be the key thing, is how am I going to score my particular points in this particular game. All right, that is how you play Land versus Sea. Join me back at the studio. I'm going to share with you my final thoughts on what I think about Land versus Sea by Good Games Publishing. All right, well, that is Land versus Sea by Good Games Publishing and by Jon-Paul Jacques. Let me give you my rundown of this tile laying game. Oh my goodness gracious, I do enjoy a good tile laying game, and this one is of the purest form, where all of the components, and I literally mean all of the components that you're going to be playing with, are tiles. Now, a la Carcassonne style, you do have to match up all of the sides, and the way they make this one go a little bit step further, that all of the tiles are hexagonal, so you do have to pay attention to that you are matching up your land and seas, but they do give you quite a good variety in the tiles, that it's actually easier to match up most of the sides than you would originally think. And they do give you, like I said, a very good variety, and all of the tiles are double-sided, giving you lots of choices and options on your turn. Now, let's take a look at this two-player experience. Now, I'm going to keep on emphasizing that this is, I think, mainly designed as a two-player game only. There are rules for a third player. There are rules for a four-player team variant. But everything that I lead to see, or that I've read about those variants, is that I think this was mainly made as a two-player game only. initially, and then they tagged on 3 and 4 players just to kind of, meet those demographics for sales purposes. Now, I could be eating crow there, so please leave a comment in this video. Have you played this at the 3-player count? Have you played this teams? And let me know what your thoughts are. And am I wrong in saying that, I think this is mainly meant as a 2-player game? Now, with that being said, I think it's only a 2 because literally it's in the title, land versus sea. One player is taking on the role of making these connected land segments, and another player is trying to make these connected sea segments. And that's the push and pull of this game, as you do not want one player to start, amassing a really, really large area for scoring purposes. I kind of equate that this is kind of like the Carcassonne thing, where you're making the big cities, trying to get that big city scoring at some point in the game. And the same thing happens here, at least in most of our games, where somebody's trying to create a really, really big sea or a really, really big land region. And the push and pull here is that, hey, even though I'm playing as sea, I can still complete a land area, and I can still contribute to land pieces, and I could potentially get a little bit of a benefit in those bonus points along the way. And that's kind of something that you really need to pay attention to in here, as in, hey, a land player could have this 6-tile region already, but there's 4 bonus points inside of that region. So if I come along as the sea player and I finish off that area, if it's an opportunity for me to finish off that area, yes, I'm going to add another tile. That land area now is worth 7 points. It's got 7 tiles to it. It's worth 7 points. But since I finished the region as the sea player, I'm going to grab the bonus points of 4 bonus points. So instead of the land player, making, 6, 7 points off the tiles, plus also getting their bonus points if they completed the region, that would have been like 11 points. Now it's, hey, the land area gets 7 points, but I'm going to get 4 points as the sea player. That's only a difference of 3 points, and it's much more manageable of a game scoring-wise in that regards. And those are situations that you really need to pay attention to in this game. Now, of course, we're talking the basic game here of just trying to connect these areas together and finishing off these areas. You can play with the optional modules here that I have in front of me. You can be playing with the mountains and coral region, where you're going to get some extra points along the way for placing your tiles in a strategic manner of creating these continuous either coral reefs or mountain ranges as you play the game. Or you can be playing with the caravans and ships module, which kind of adds on, some extra scoring opportunities depending on where you place your tiles, but also some more end of game scoring areas. And there's a little bit of more of like an area majority, area influence aspect going on there that you can also think about. So adding in the modules doesn't add anything to the actual gameplay. It adds on to the decision space of what am I going to do with my tiles. Can I score an extra couple bonus points here or there as I kind of go along the way? We kind of call it nickel and diming. Can I grab a couple nickels and dimes every so often while I'm also trying to contribute to my land areas or my sea areas? And those are really, really good. You're only going to play the basic game probably once, maybe twice by itself, just to kind of get the handle and feel for the game. But you're going to want to add in these modules as soon as possible, because they really, really, blows up the decision space as you're playing this game. The weakest scoring module we found was the waypoints of, hey, I can put down, and when I put down a tile, I can put down a token into one of my areas. Let's see if you're a sea player, land if you're a land player. And now whenever that area gets completed, whoever completes it gets 1 extra bonus point. It doesn't really seem worth it in our experiences, because our final scores, though, have been close, but they haven't been 1 point close. Whereas, hey, if I would have just completed that area that had that waypoint token in it, hey, I would have got that one extra point that I would have needed. No, it doesn't really seem to work that way. So we find it's kind of the weakest of the modules. Now, they do say they really recommend that you must play with that variant in the 4-player game, so there must be something there that I'm missing in the 2-player experience that I'm missing in the 4-player experience there. So we'll leave that part as a way. We'll just leave that one for right now. Let's take a look at the art of the tiles. Like, all the art is very whimsical, very fun to look at, but at times it can feel a little busy. Yes, I got to be paying attention to coral reefs and mountain ranges and ships and caravans, but with those other things, there are a whole schwackload of other artistic elements that are part of these tiles that sometimes detracts and distracts you from what you're actually looking at in some of these regions. So though the art is very fun and really kind of draws you into this world that you are literally creating on the table, at times it does feel and seem like it could be very, very busy. So just be conscious of that. Other components I'm looking at here is the box. The box is fantastic. They utilize the box in a really cool way that you are able to store the tiles, and to make up for all that extra space and everything, they put the scoreboard right inside the box as you open it up there. So that was a very clever thing to do to make use of the box size and the box area for this particular game. I would like to see more of these small box games that, feel like it could have been like a smaller box if they would have utilized the box in a little bit more of a unique way like they did here. I really enjoyed that piece. One last thing that I'm going to take a look at is that this game has the same issue as in Carcassonne, as that in it starts off as a small playing area, but it grows, and depending on which way it's growing, depending on your table surface, if you have a large table surface, you have no problem. If you have a smaller table surface, you might want to reconsider here, because these tiles, like, the game ends when all of the tiles, and there's a lot of tiles here that need to get placed onto the table, and depending on how you're playing it, it could shape and form to one direction as over the other, and it is going to be a sizable area in the end. So this is, though it looks like it could be a small coffee table size game, you are going to need a little bit larger of an area, or even, you're going to use every single square inch of that coffee table in order to play this game. Okay, I think that I've got most of my thoughts out of the way here. We are really enjoying this one as a 2-player only style of game. It is ranking up there. We are getting in quite a few plays as of late, and the box does boast a 40-minute time frame, and that is actually quite accurate. There are a lot of tiles to play out into this map, and there is going to be some decision spaces that need to be made, especially if you're playing with those caravan and ships and corals and mountain modules, part of the scorings. There is a little bit of decision where you're going to be placing your tiles, and as that map grows, there's going to be lots of different options for those tiles to slot into. So yes, the 40-minute playtime, I think, is very accurate. It definitely hasn't been taking us shorter than that, and some of our games, especially our earlier ones, did drift more towards that 1 hour mark as we tried to figure out, and also did some of our end of game scoring at the end when we started including the ships and caravans, making sure we got all of the right areas. All right, well, if you are enjoying the content that I am producing in this channel, on this channel, I guess that's what I should be saying, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell to get notified when the new videos are releasing, and leave a comment below this video telling me, what are your thoughts about Land vs. Sea? Have you played it? Are you looking forward to playing it? What are some of your initial thoughts? And on that note, I think I can officially close out this review of Land vs. Sea by saying this review is officially over.